Hi, good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Poem Praise 2. I do thank you for tuning in, and peace and blessings be upon you and your family this evening. Now we are going to get right back into For Women Only. This is chapter 3, take 2. And it goes like this. But I want to do this. The inner insecurity I've described has an interesting partner. The feeling of wanting a challenge, wanting to take on something new and exciting. These two feelings may seem contradictory, but they are all part of the male package. Men want to conquer Everest, or at the very least, the mean streets of the city. But they also know they'll have to risk taking a humiliating tumble on the way. One man put it this way. When a guy does something that he's never done before and he being paid for it, he thinks, I can do this, but what if they find out this is my first time? There's a joke among some guys that you're going to be talking in front of a group sometime, and your fourth grade teacher going to run out and say, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a D student. It's the irrational, debilitating fear that you'll publicly be found out. And sooner or later, every man has to face it. Because if you want to move up, that will inevitably mean doing something new. As you might guess, those times are when men feel the shakiest and need the most encouragement from us. The imposter at work. As you expect, a man's uncertainty about his adequacy usually takes its greatest toll on the job. One man put it this way, we have incredible anxiety over where we stand at work. I start to think that the fact that my boss isn't communicating with me means that he's found me out. This creates intense anxiety and uncertainty. A man's uncertainty about his adequacy usually takes its greatest toll on the job. I want to see you first thing Monday morning. Frank McGuire helped start Federal Express and earlier helped an inside position in the Kennedy White House. He takes us inside the unique torture of a man's workplace anxiety in his book, You're the Greatest. Every Friday as he left the FedEx office, McGuire called his goodbyes to FedEx founder Fred Smith. And Fred would call back, thanks for going the extra mile this week. McGuire always left with a bounce in his step. Then came the Friday when his cheery goodbye was met by silence. And then, Frank, I want to see you first thing Monday morning. I had a lousy weekend, McGuire says. Not only me, but my wife, my kids, Thor, the wonder dog. We all had a miserable weekend. On Monday, when he nervously asked Fred, what did you want to talk to me about? He was met with a puzzled look. Oh, I forget. It wasn't important. You can guess why Frank McGuire had a miserable weekend. He was expecting to be fired. But why would he think that? He was a successful value executive at the fast-growing business. He had even been trusted by the President of the United States. So why did he assume a neutral comment was a portent of woe? Because inside he felt like an imposter. And he was sure he had just been found out. McGuire writes, I've been around many powerful leaders. On the surface, they look totally secure. You would never guess there was even 1 ounce of fear. But my experience has also convinced me that no matter what your title or position in life is, we all, no exceptions, carry our treasures in fragile containers. Inside, he felt like an imposter, and he was sure he had just been found out. We're all on the replacement list. One of the most revealing interviews I conducted was with Ken Rudigers, a former All-Pro offensive tackle with the Super Bowl champ Green Bay Packers. He now helps retiring athletes make the difficult transition into a well-balanced, regular lives. When I told him the subject of this chapter, he jumped on it. I've never seen so many insecurities as in the locker room, he said. Surprised, I asked him why. Here's his explanation. Because the guys are naked on the field. They have 2 or 3 hours to prove themselves, and there's no fooling the camera. Once you look through the mask, you got the most insecure guys ever. They try to put up a great front, but once they know each other really well, they'll ask, how'd I do on that play? They are just looking for affirmation. And it's not just the camera. It's the knowledge that some guys are going to get cut. Another all-pro football player put it this way. We're all on the replacement list. You just want to stay off the top of it. You know, sports is like corporate America. There's a what have you done for me lately attitude. It's incredibly draining, and there is a huge unspoken fear of failure. Kim went on to make an important note about how that fear can be used. Keep in mind that guys use that fear of failure for good. It gets you out of bed in the morning. It gets you to the gym when you wouldn't go otherwise. Ken's words helped me realize why so many men, talented, effective men, work such long hours. Sometimes the long hours are a necessity for the job, but not always. Sometimes they are, in the guy's mind, an insurance against fear. Fear of falling behind. Fear of being cut from the team. The imposter at home. The male sense of performance anxiety doesn't, as one man put it, just end when we walk through the front door. Many men feel just as inadequate at home. The majority of men do want to be good husbands, but in the same way they worry that they may not know everything about being a good employee. They secretly worry that they don't know how to succeed at being a good husband, father, provider, or handyman. At least at work, one man told me, I have an idea of how to succeed. Work hard, get ahead, complete assignments, and get in good with the boss. At home, what is the measure of success? How do I know whether I am a success or a failure? Not surprisingly, men said they judge themselves and feel that others judge them based on the happiness and respect of their wives. I don't know one man who thinks he has all the answers when it comes to being a good father or husband. If a man feels like he's trying to bluff his way through this being a good husband thing, you can imagine his relief when he can tell that his wife feels loved and happy, or when she publicly honors him and his husbanding abilities. And conversely, you can imagine the trepidation he feels when he receives the cold shoulder confirmation that he got it wrong again, that he is indeed an imposter, that he doesn't know what he's doing in his personal life. One man wrote me a note about this. I don't know one man who thinks he has all the answer when it comes to being a good father or husband. If we've had good fathers, then we try and remember what our fathers would do in the situation. If we didn't have good fathers, we feel like we're making it up as we go. If my wife often challenges my decisions or appears displeased with me as a husband, it's the imposter all over again. It may even cause a man to withdraw from taking an active role in the lives of his wife and kids if he doesn't think he can do it well or be affirmed in it. That's not a rational or Christ-like approach by the man, for sure. But that is how some guys feel. What should we do? So what on earth should we do about this? It's not your man's responsibility to figure all this out on his own. Once we understand what our husbands secretly feel and think, our words and actions can make a huge difference. Affirm him. Affirmation is everything. Have you ever noticed how the adulterous woman in the book of Proverbs seduces the unwitting young man? It's not with sex. Okay, not just with sex. It's the flattery. She threw her arms around him. And with a brazen look, she said, I've offered my sacrifices and just finished my vows. It's you I was looking for. With her flattery, she enticed him. He followed her at once, from Proverbs 7. Flattery is simply a seductive counterfeit for affirmation. As one marriage counselor told me, affirmation is everything. When a man is affirmed, he can conquer the world. When he's not, he is sapped of his confidence and even his feeling of manhood. And believe me, he will consciously or unconsciously seek out places where he receives affirmation. Home is the most important place for a man to be affirmed. If a man knows that his wife believes in him, he is empowered to do better in every area of his life. A man tends to think of life as a competition and a battle, and he can energetically go duke it out if he can come home to someone who supports him unconditionally, who will wipe his brow and tell him he can do it. As one of our close friends told me, it's all about whether my wife thinks I can do it. A husband can slay dragons, climb mountains, and win great victories if he believes his wife believes that he can. And that does complete this take of chapter 3. So stay tuned for take number 3 of For Women Only here on Poem Praise 2. I want you and your family to be blessed and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the evening. And until next time, Later, y'all.